Hello, and welcome back to the Black Book Experience. Recently in a video, I told you I would share some more information with you regarding how PDA profile shows up in autism. And again, PDA meaning pathological demand avoidance, and how that profile is related to autism, and just to share some tips and things with you on that line. So stay tuned with us as we talk about this, and stick with us to the end, because I'll have a freebie for you that I think will be really helpful to many of you who may be looking for employment in the community. Okay, so again, PDA stands for pathological demand avoidance, not public displays of affection, as some people or the general public tends to use the acronym PDA. And it's something that can co-occur with autism as well as ADHD. PDA is not a medical diagnosis, nor is it a diagnosis listed in the DSM-5, which is the psychological version of diagnosis for mental health disorders. So it is important to note that, again, that this is a profile and a subtype that is related to autism spectrum disorder, to help us understand how persons with autism have different expressions of their autism traits and characteristics, and what that may look like for them as an individual. So what are some things that individuals tend to notice with the PDA profile? For some, it can look like rebellion, it can look like disobedience, and it can look like defiance, amongst other things. Okay, and again, stay with me to the end, because understanding this expression of autism is really important to how what we do here will help you continue to be successful, increase your success, and find measure and happiness in some of the things that you're looking to do in your personal life, as well as in your professional or your work life. Now, when we think about those three characteristics that I mentioned about rebellion and defiance and such, this can be particularly important, especially for Black males when they are in certain authoritative interactions, okay? So please be sure to follow us on all platforms, because as a mom of an autistic male, particularly who is Black, this is something that I'm extremely passionate about, and I stay attuned to and aware of. And as part of our support, I am working on something as we grow what we do and establishing ourselves in this space that's going to provide support for those authoritative interactions, particularly when an individual has an expression of autism that meets the PDA profile. Okay, so save those last two thoughts, store them for later, and now let's get into a little bit of talking more about the symptoms of a PDA profile. So before we do that, note that PDA signs and symptoms is not related to choice that an individual with autism is making. They do not have control over their interactions and their responses to it. They just can't really help it, right? And may go to extreme lengths to avoid not complying with a demand, even if they really feel like they want to comply with the demand, they just can't, right? And this can be a source of anxiety for the individual. If you're the parent of an individual who has a PDA profile, then certainly it can be a source of anxiety for you as well as the individual who is on the spectrum, right? They may even avoid things that they actually like or prefer to do, because again, it's something that's just a part of them and they can't control it. So what are some of those symptoms? All right, here are some, and I'm going to read them directly from the website, in which helped to inform me to create this series that I wanted to share with you all. And some of the symptoms that have been assigned to pathological demand avoidance are resisting or avoiding ordinary demands, using social strategies to avoid demands, obsessive behavior, superficial socialness that lacks deep understanding of the person that they're interacting with in that social setting. They may have excessive mood swings, sensitivity to sensory experience, and we know that sensory processing disorder is also a significant part of some of the profiles for persons on the spectrum. They also may have an anxiety related to their need to control. So the demands of them for them to be able to do something can be avoided. They don't respond to the usual or typical or common parenting or teaching methods. And that's important to know. And while that's something that can be generally true as well of persons on the spectrum, particularly with a PDA profile, this particular piece of it is important. And again, as I mentioned in a previous video, I am an autism mom. I have an autism son. And the more I looked into this particular profile, I've seen various ways where my own son has displayed characteristics or symptoms, right? Because it's not really a medical diagnosis like we discussed, have displayed some of these symptoms. And it has really helped me to figure out how to learn more about who he is, navigate some of those challenges, and find ways to find success, which is the whole goal of why we do what we do here at the Black Book Experience. And again, with any individual on the spectrum, any expression of any characteristics can vary from person to person. They can have all of them, they can have a few of them, they could have some of them, but either way, definitely some things for you to be aware of and to know, particularly for those of us who are allies and supporters, so that we know what we can do and figure out what we can do, and that will come in a future discussion, right? Here to tell you what you can do as a supporter and an ally to be able to support those with a PDA profile. So what's next? All right, let's talk about some other things you want to know when it comes to the connection of pathological demand avoidance with autism. And here are some things you want to keep in mind. They may have seemingly better social skills than most individuals who are autistic, such as being more comfortable with making direct eye contact. My son is like that. He can make direct eye contact at times, and there are times he can't. When he was younger, the eye contact was much more difficult for him, and he didn't do it that much, but just naturally on his own, he has been able to, as he's gotten older, get a little bit more comfortable because he does have a higher social ability, if you will, than some typical persons who are on the spectrum. But then there are times when he absolutely does not, right? It sort of waxes and wanes. Some other things are there may not be as many of their behaviors may be repetitive, or they may not need as many routines as some other spectrum individuals. And so that may be less obvious to people, which again creates a barrier and a challenge to diagnosing them with autism. They also too may have intense special interests, but you will find that they're not as intently focused in terms of time as some other individuals on the spectrum who, when they have those special interests, they are really, really super focused and can hyper focus. They have the ability to separate some time and space when it comes to that. So when you keep that in mind, how does one know if they have pathological demand avoidance? And again, as I shared, there isn't a medical diagnosis. There are no related criteria in terms of the medical community. There was a group of people who did some research around that, and they're called the PDA Society, who found some linkages in this area to, again, a different subset or profile of autism. And after learning about this profile and the following list of things, again, this is how I realized my son fit more into this particular profile. So the information that I've taken here to help talk about some of these pieces, just so that you have a reference point, because that's always important. I took this from Psych Central article. You can go online to the Psych Central website, and it's one of the information sources that I used to share this information with you in case you want to go back for yourself and sort of look at some of these things, because I never encourage people just to take my word for it, right? I'm here, I'm an advocate, I'm an ally, I'm an autism mom, but at the end of the day, I really want you to know and understand that this information comes from valid and viable sources to help you understand yourself, to help your parents understand you, and to help those who are on the outside, whether they're friends or employers, to be able to understand you better, so that, again, we create a much more natural, better, more cohesive environment, excuse me, in which you can be yourself. Because to us here at the Black Book Experience, the priority here for us is truly comes from a place of belonging, which is why it's part of our mission and vision statement for the supports that we offer you all. Okay, what are some triggers that you can recognize? Okay, one, figuring out which sort of demands that they're going to not like, finding methods and ways to help relieve their stress and anxiety. Okay, because it can worsen with PDA if we don't figure out ways to know what those triggers are. Okay, another thing we can do is rephrasing requests so that they're not as triggering, right? Such as using an indirect request. I know for me, in teaching my son, who's now 17, how to drive, the way I communicate to him when we're driving, how to make a turn, or about if there's a light coming up. And when the light comes up, if I want him to take a certain direction at the light, I had to learn to rephrase the command so that his brain could receive it, so that he could process it in enough time in order to perform the action while driving, right? So, and it's something that we're still working through as a process. And that's one example. Minimizing unnecessary rules. Helping yourself or your loved one with PDA to feel more in control through collaboration and mutual agreement, where things may be boundaries or where they may be non-negotiables. Also, a tactic prior to learning this here that I learned along the journey of being an autism mom is to, the more I let him know in advance and the more I let my son have a choice, I found the easier it was for us to do things that are external, that may have been uncomfortable for him. That forewarning, that forenotice, that getting his input helped get him at ease so that he knew when the time came what was coming and what was expected of him to do. Next is being flexible and having alternative arrangements in place when their demand avoidance kicks in. What can you do, right? We know now the what, but then we have to figure out the how in terms of what is our alternate plan or path, okay? And again, giving plenty of notice before an event or an upcoming demand, because it helps them get used to what's coming, right? Because they already know and they can already gear themselves up for whatever it is that you need to do, where you need to go, what you need them to get done. So what are some takeaways and some free resources that I want to share with you? Now we're at that part. Right? So based on that article, here are some takeaways that I really wanted to share with you. And again, things that I've learned being an autism mom myself, and just by a lot of trial and error over the years, figuring things out, because this is really why I started this organization, to be an ally, to be a support, because I have a passion for wanting to help not just my son, but people like him and other parents, again, to lessen that anxiety, right? So here's what we want to know. Pathological demand avoidance can be managed with the right plan, support, and the tools in place, right? Lots of forethought, lots of planning that will help navigate us. And I promise you, it will save you and your autistic loved one lots of time, save lots of anxiety, save lots of stress just by the simple act of planning. Even when that planning seems small to you, it is not small to them, okay? Autistic persons who have a PDA profile can have and create a lot of personal and professional success for themselves. Several things that we do in our business model help support that. And many can achieve working in either self-employment or jobs where what they do is independent work and create success in those areas. It really is just a matter of finding the right fit for them based on what their talent, skills, and abilities are. Right? And part of our focus is helping those who are diagnosed with level 1 autism to use any of their special interests in fields like the arts, science, technology, electronics, engineering, math, and other areas to be able to find viable and sustainable employment that is beyond just a living wage. I actually have another video on my TikTok page where I talk about that in an audience discussion that I was involved in. I will pin that to the top of my page on my TikTok channel if you want to go and check that out. So we know you can do the jobs. We know we can do what's right if you just have the tools and the support mechanisms in place. You just need, again, the right foundation and support pieces. And with that in mind, what we've done is developed a free tool for you to take a look at to help those who may be at job readiness or close to job readiness. And it's a free download that's available to you on our website. And all you have to do is go to our website, which is www.theblackbookexperience.com, and go to our page that's labeled shop. And there's a free tip sheet that's called Job Application and Interview Tip Sheet. So head over to the website, get you a free copy. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our content on this social media page, as well as our other social media pages like TikTok, IG, and Facebook, and including here on YouTube. So I appreciate you all sticking with us and listening to this, whether you're the autistic person or whether you're a supporter or ally, because again, we're here to do the work that supports you. So please leave any comments below this video, as everybody else says, and share your thought with us so that we can get back with you and ask questions. We love to interact with you. We love to hear your voice because we're here to support you as the autistic person, particularly your voice matters to us, to make sure we're bringing you support, information, and content that's going to help you, or if you're the parent, to help you to bring out the best in your child on the spectrum, just as I try to do with my own son each and every day. Thank you.